And we're live. Hey guys, welcome to Whiskey Charlie, the War Game Chat. I'm Mo from Mo's Game Table, and joining me tonight is my co-host, everyone's favorite Gimp with the Limp, the TheGimpyGamer, Nate Rogers. How you doing, Nate?
Doing great. Nice to be here. Good to see all you guys. Welcome to our two other guests.
And our other co-host, Kev Sharp, may or may not be here. We don't know. He is something else he has to attend to tonight, so hopefully we'll see him soon. And joining us, our special guests, Herman Lutman, the designer of The Most Fearful Sacrifice and many other titles, and Mark Walker from Flying Pig Games, and they have that game up on Kickstarter now. Welcome to the show, guys.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Glad to be here.
And so how's everything going so far with the Kickstarter?
I don't know. You said you checked it. Have we funded yet?
I think you're close. You're real close to funding. So I mean, another couple of another couple pledges, and you'll get it.
No, it took a week. Yeah.
Yeah, you're more than double funded.
You know, it's super exciting, but I'll tell you, I'm not surprised because when Herman and I first talked about this, I'm a big fan of Herm's designs. There's a lot of people that are big fans of Herm's designs. And there are a lot of war gamers that love war games, right? Am I right?
Mm-hmm.
You know? And then there are a lot of people that I think just in general kind of like Flying Pig Games, maybe. So I said, Herm, you know, I think this will be a really good chance to do an epic Gettysburg game. And he goes, nah, I don't want to do that. Let me do another tiny battle game. But
Tiny battle on steroids.
That was it.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of steroids.
Right. Exactly. Because when I first saw the game, you're like, hey, you want to shoot a video for it? I said, sure. And I get this prototype and I was like, wow, this is like 8 pounds. This is huge. Put it on the table. And I was like, I went plonk on the table. It was like really loud. And then I set up the map. I said, what did you do, Herman? I texted him. I'm like, what did you do here, man? This is like a monster. He's like, did I let it get out of control?
Well, I can't be the only one that misread that at first because I saw it was like 15 square feet. And at first I thought it was a 15-foot map. And I started browsing the house. I was like, okay, which wall? That wall? This wall? I could kick my son out of his room. That's big enough. I could set it up on the floor, maybe. I wonder if the wife will go for that.
Actually, that picture you took, Mo, of the map on the table was really impressive. I mean, that really,
yeah.
And Eddie just put a picture up that I shared on Facebook that shows his little left hand over there in the one corner.
Nice. Well, I mean, that's the thing. It's a giant map, but not only is it a giant map, it's a giant Rick Barber map, and it's a gorgeous piece of art. It really is.
It is. We've had a few people on the Kickstarter say they want to order a second copy to hang it on the wall,
right?
Or maybe want us to offer a poster as one of the add-ons. So, you know, we'll see about that. If you're super into the Civil War, I can see that. You know, something that Herm has been dying to tell you is that he didn't want to name it A Most Fearful Sacrifice.
Oh, no. Gee, okay, Mark, what did we want to name it?
Well, it wasn't we, it was you, dude. You're the one. He wanted to name it Killed Them Yankees.
Oh, okay.
But I talked him out of it.
Oh, my God.
Only for the ones south of the Mason-Dixon, right? And then for the for up north of that, it would be A Most Fearful Sacrifice, right?
No, it'd just be Die Yankee Die.
Yeah. But that's
if
a good one.
I would have agreed to Kill Them Yankees, Mark would have been printed up all over the place already.
Baseball fans would be up in arms. They would totally miss it. They would totally miss it.
That's all right. I'm a Mets fan, so that would have been okay with me.
Well, those of us in the South.
The sacrifice I'm making. Being here right now, the Phils were tied with the Mets 2-2, right? Is that over yet, Herm? Were you watching it?
I was not watching it. Nope. I was preparing for this. I was studying, Mark. I don't know what you were doing. Apparently, you were watching television.
I was drinking and smoking a cigar.
Yes.
You designed the game. You shouldn't have to study that hard. You should know this intrinsically. It should be ingrained into you.
Yes, it is a mounted
Herm
map.
does.
It is a mounted map, yes.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
I didn't realize you guys had gone all that on that.
You are correct, sir.
Welcome in, Von Deacon.
Thank you.
So, tell us where did this design come from? I mean, we'll start off first off. I know it is a derivative of the blind sword system. It is the Black Swan system now. Talk a little bit about what the initial design was with the blind swords, and then how you evolved from there.
Well, the first variation of the blind swords was the Devil's to Pay. So that was an effort to change the scale of the game and get it to play a little faster, because regimental scale chit pull games have a top limit. You know, and Long Street Attacks was really the top limit that you could expect from a chit pull regimental scale game. So the Devil's to Pay was an effort to see, well, what can we do to keep the heart and soul of Blind Swords, the historical chaos, but up the scale and get the playing time a little faster. So eventually we could do bigger battles. So Devil's to Pay was honestly, an experimental game, which Tiny Battle is fantastic for, right? It's a good platform to try out radical designs, new designs, and see how they go. So the Devil's to Pay was successful, and then obviously everybody asked me for the second day and the third day, and initially we did talk about doing that. But once you start digging into the orders of battle, and then you have to come up with overnight rules, and then the expansion became larger than the original game. So at that point, Mark and I said, you know what, enough of this. We're not going to do a little piecemeal, stick it all together type of game. We're gonna do one big deluxe, do it right, under one roof, deluxe components the way Flying Pig does them, and just do it.
Well, that is true. Now, when you decided to do this, and did you talk to Mark first, or Mark talked to you first as far as doing it? Because we all know Mark and his size of the games he likes to make. They just keep getting bigger. So was it you wanting to do a really giant game, or was it Mark that says, hey, let's do this and make it big?
I think it was both of us, right?
I was just going to say it's collaborative. In other words, I go to him and say, Mark, if we just do the second day, it's going to be twice the size of the Devil's to Pay. It's not going to work for Tiny Battle. And then he comes back and says, well, let's have Flying Pig do it. And if we're going to do it, let's do, almost 1-inch counters and huge hexes, and we'll do it right. So, I mean, it was collaborative in that sense.
Mo, you have to understand, Herm and I talk so often that his wife calls me his boyfriend.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah, we have to clear our phone calls now because they're so often.
So, Nate, how are you into Civil War games? Or what's your experience with Civil War games?
Well, see, that's the thing. It's like Civil War, the battle itself just is not my thing, right? I've never been a big Civil War fan, but I hate it when you have like a good designer making a good game in this thing, because I'm like looking at it, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna have to play this because I like the system behind it. I can overlook that, and in my mind we'll be in World War II or space or something like that, and we'll just go that route. But
that's a stretch. World War II or space instead of the Civil War.
You know what I mean? No, I really like it. I like the size of it. I have always liked the big ones, especially when you get it all laid out across the board. We were talking about it on the War Room the other day, something to the effect of, what is it? It's got 7 that you can play off of one map, and then it's like 8 or 9, or the last
it's
2.
Not, yeah,
is
9
the whole
of the 13. Right, 9 of the 13 take only one map.
Yeah, that's what they were talking about. And that I'm not going to set up one map. If I get a big game, I want to set up all the damn maps. I want to put out all the counters.
I know a lot of people are going to feel that way.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. Go big or go home. I don't have an 8-foot table in my game room because I want to use 2 feet of it. I want to use all the feet of it. So
it's interesting. Not to restart the whole monster game conversation, but it's not technically a monster game the way I would define a monster war game. It's monster in its dimensions, but in its complexity and number of units, it's not really a monster.
Yeah, it's like when we were talking, I said it's monster in scope, but it's not monster in what you have to digest to get to that scope, which is a great thing. It's a big game, really big game, without having to get through that big tome of rules that could take a lot of time.
But that's the good thing. That's the good thing. All right, so one of my favorite games is Thunder in the East, because it's a large game, but it's streamlined in such a manner that you can play it really easily, right? You have to take a few minutes to read the rules, but once you have the rules, they flow easily, and you can keep moving counters, and you're not having to dig into the rule book. 1985 Under an Iron Sky is a very massive game, but it's the polar opposite. There's a lot of chrome to it. There's a lot of depth to it. And while I enjoy that game, it's not going to spend as much time on my table because it does take so much longer to get through a turn. So if you went in the Thunder in the East direction on this, that's going to be a good thing. I think you're going to attract a lot more players with that, with something that's streamlined and easy to play.
And I think that's why Mark and I get along so well, because we actually design with a similar philosophy. I mean, when I started getting into wargaming, one of my earliest favorite designs was World at War. And to me, that is a streamlined monster as well. It made modern warfare playable for me.
Yeah.
Herm, you're so sweet.
So Richard was asking, has anyone mentioned the dimensions on the table?
Yeah,
15
many
square
times.
feet.
Okay, it's 15 square feet, Richard, but that breaks down into a 60-inch by 40-inch map when you have both of them on the table. We get asked that question a lot, and I understand, but it breaks down to a 60-inch by a 40-inch map. So it's actually a little bit more than 15 square feet.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's two
A little.
30 by 41-inch maps, separate pieces. So
Yeah.
If you're playing the one,
yeah.
right. If you're playing the one map scenario, it's 30 by 41.
That's pretty nice. It's gonna. I mean, it is really beautiful on the table. Even my wife. She came in and she's like, "What's this?" And I was like, "This is the game I was telling you about, a most fearful sacrifice." And she's like, "Is that a map? Is that like? Did somebody draw that, or is that that's not computer generated?" I said, "No, that's hand drawn."
Right.
Well, I mean, that's the unique thing. That's the unique thing about Rick's maps is they're hand drawn, and they're very immersive, especially for Civil War. I mean, I've seen his maps used in other periods, and they're still beautiful, but it just connects with that period.
Yeah, it does.
And then they're a little intimidating when you first look at them. I mean, they look like a work of art. They're not that difficult to play on once you actually start pushing things around. You realize, oh, it's very logical. Dark green is low. That's where the streams are. Lighter is higher. And then once you realize that relationship, you just look at the map and it just looks like a 3D map. Yeah.
No, it definitely does. And the other thing I like about it too is when you get down low to it and you're real close, you see a lot of little tiny details in there. There's a lot of really cool things that he threw.
We always joke that he misplaced the rock next to Little Round Top, things like that. Yeah,
that's true. I mean, it's true.
One of Rick's things is that he does. Don't cringe, Herm. Come on, man. That Rick does is he says, "Well, I always put in a couple of Easter eggs so no one can copy my maps." Fair enough. Yeah. So when we had the map uploaded on I forgot what actually brought this up, but the map's uploaded on the server. It's actually ready to go to the printer. And Rick was saying, "How did it look?" And I told him, "Yeah, it looked great. I personally rearranged some hexes around Culp's Hill." And we were waiting for the scream that would resonate all the way from Pennsylvania. But I don't know. He never even answered the email.
By the way, the guy who just posted is Steve Pointinger. He's one of the developers for the game. One of the key members to getting this game out and tested.
Well, see, one thing that I know Nate wants to ask a question, but before we go any further, what Steve's saying here, that it's not a monster. That's kind of a sticking point for some people, is using the term monster. It's like, it's not a bad word to use. Monster means a lot of things to a lot of people.
Yeah, it has a bad connotation generally.
Yes, exactly. If I sit down and I say, I got this monster game, to me, it could mean that it's a monster awesome game. It's a monster, this is going to take me 6 months to play, things like that. And this is not that type of monster.
As I think I saw Stigler say before, Gettysburg's a great battle for this kind of thing because it goes all the way from that small meeting engagement on the first day between Buford and Heth all the way to that 3-day extravaganza if you want to do that. And we even have a 3-day extravaganza based on the historical reinforcements. And then we have a 3-day extravaganza where all the victory points are thrown out the board. You're marching onto the table and you're picking your you're picking your spots on what's important militarily. So Cemetery Hill might not even come into it in your particular version of the battle. And you can change where reinforcements come in. You can speed them up, delay them. So for that 13th scenario, that one is just wide open. It's like a sandbox.
Yeah. That's a great thing.
Yeah, a monster isn't necessarily a bad thing. To me, monster just means size, right?
Yeah.
Just a large game.
Well, yeah, as far as number of
counters and map and everything, yeah.
I don't know. When somebody calls it a monster game, to me, it almost means unplayable. But there are exceptions.
No,
I'm talking monster to me is it's got 5 maps and 2,000 counters. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
In your mind, you're thinking War in the Pacific, or like Case Blue.
Yeah, something along those lines.
Yeah, something really massive with thousands of just tiny little microscopic counters all over the board. To me, a monster's just large in scope, going to take up multiple feet on my table, a handful of play rates to go with it. It doesn't have to. I mean, time has moved on. It doesn't have to be something that's going to bog you down for months and months. It can be something that you can get out and play in a day.
I agree, and when you talk about size of counters and stuff, the counters on this, Mo can tell you. I mean, the counters, they're not as big as what we usually do, because if we did 1-inch counters, this would have to be probably 25 square feet. But they're 13 16, so they're pretty big counters. It's easy to see what you're doing and stuff.
Right.
That's very true. Because you don't want it to be too big with those 1-inch counters, which would be cool, but you'd need a much bigger map, and then you're talking, you need the floor at that point.
And there's not a lot of information on the counters either. I mean, there's a strength point number and a CR number, and the other stuff's just identifying what the unit is. Yeah. But,
and I like how that CR number can change too, which you have designed into the game, using the cards, things like that. So things are always in flux, because one of the problems with war games always tends to be the perfect information everyone has, where where everybody is, what their strengths are. You can look through stacks, the whole 9 yards. The commanders on the field in real battle don't know that. They've got to go on their best information and what they see. And also, you never know how your troops are actually going to perform in battle. And that's where those cards can come in and kind of change things up.
And that was the inspiration for doing Blind Swords initially the way it was anyway. I wanted my games to play like the military history books I was reading, and they weren't. Well, so I wasn't going to design a locking Zoc, try to get that last factor to get the 3-to-1 odds type of game, right? It was going to be more of a narrative game, a flowing game, right? Where you don't know what's going to happen next, where you can't plan every offensive perfectly or every defense perfectly.
Well, I was kind of looking at the counters here, while you guys were talking about it. Can you flesh out the CR number changing, how that works with the card play?
Well, so the CR number that's on there right now is their basic. It's a combination of their training, morale, etc. Right, experience, whatever you want to call it. It's a catch-all number. So if the unit does not have unit support, instead of coming up with complicated brigade rules and all that, it's very simple. If the unit's not next to one of its own brigades, the other piece being part of the brigade, it's going to lose 1 cohesion rating. If it's off by itself, it's going to lose the cohesion rating. If it's shaken, it's going to lose the cohesion rating. There are certain cards you can play, like Rebel Yell, and take those colors, where you can actually temporarily increase it. So it'll fluctuate throughout the game, and the event cards will help you do that, as far as on the positive side.
Okay, so it sounds like easy to remember modifiers. If you can isolate a unit, it's going to lose some of its rating. Something basic like that.
Yeah. I am not a multiple sheets of modifiers type of gamer. I hate games like that. I really do. I don't even use die roll modifiers. It's always column shifts, because I don't want people changing the dice. I want you to roll the dice and read the table result. Not sit there, have to remember to add 2 or subtract 2 from the dice. Everything's column shift. So I'm going to a column and I'm rolling a dice and I'm reading the result.
Now, do you find as a designer, do you find that easier on figuring math out with the design, or is it more difficult not having the modifiers in there?
What you mean? I mean, calling them column shifts instead of
just column shifts instead of modifiers.
Yeah, over the years, we've just
both.
found that people like that better. It's just easier to remember that you're moving the column so that when you finally do roll the dice, you're still looking at that column. You don't have to do anything else.
No, I can understand that because again, referring back to a previous example in 1985, I made a few mistakes in that game because it did have both. It had column shifts and it had dice modifiers, and there were a couple occasions where I was confusing the two and I was shifting columns when I should have been affecting the dice, and vice versa. So if this only has one aspect of that to worry about, then you really have streamlined it, to not have to worry about that extra level of modification. That will help people like me with shit for brains.
Well, plus it's hard to die roll modify an 11 to 66 system.
True.
It's slightly harder if you don't understand it, right? But if you're at a +3 and you roll a 54, you have to think about it for a while, right? So
the column shifts make it a lot faster.
Yeah, exactly.
So Steve's saying he can play day 1 in 5 to 7 hours, day 2 in 6 to 8, and all 3 days in about 12 to 15 hours.
Right.
He can play his favorite scenario in 2 to 3 hours. So there is a good example of what you can expect with the game.
Steve and Claude Whalen and Zeke Conover played those scenarios over and over again. And if they tell you that's how long it's going to play, that's totally accurate. I mean, they played that game for a year.
Wow. And they're still playing it.
They're really a great team. I mean, I can't thank those guys enough for all the hard work they did to get this game out the door and get it tested. I mean, it's easy to get the game out the door. Getting it out the door and test it as well is the tough. I mean, that's the dirty secret, right, Mark? In all wargaming is that you can design any war game you want. It's testing all those scenarios. You're doing it now.
It's not really a secret anymore. And we see a lot of companies getting the games out the door, that they don't test them.
Right.
No, I can understand that.
Stigler likes the roll your own reinforcement schedule.
I know. I've seen Stigler's remarks before, and I knew he would like that.
I do have to ask, how's this going to fare when it comes to solitaire play, since that's the main way I play with mine?
It'll work.
Yeah, if it's basically a chit pull system, except it's not chit pull anymore, it's card pull, but it's the same basic principle. And most people feel that chit pull is very solo friendly, right? Because you're pulling one at a time, you're making a decision based on that pull, and then you're pulling another one. And if you have to switch sides, it's easier to do that way.
Okay.
In other words, you're not moving the entire side by yourself and then moving across and then moving the entire side. It's in little bits and pieces.
True. Yeah, that's what I love about the.
Mark, tell John about the border strips.
Yeah, I was just getting ready to. So, John, that's something that we came up with for Old School Tactical. That has real big maps in it also, but not all the scenarios use the entire map. So, you've seen this in war games all the time. You mark it with like a penny here and like a shot glass over here. And the first time you move a counter, you knock it over and you spill your bourbon or something. Well, Shane actually, I think, came up with the idea, Shane Logan, that you put it on a neoprene strip, and it's like about 14 inches long. And on the smaller scenarios, you can lay these down on the map. And they don't slide, and it easily and visually defines the map you're going to play on. I mean, the smallest scenario, I think, is no bigger than an 8.5 by 11 section of the map. Something like that, right, Herm?
Yep.
So you just lay these strips out, and you play on the map, and it works really neat. So go pledge for the Kickstarter now, John. Thank you.
Well, the other thing too about that is you also now know where to put your drink behind when you have that out.
Exactly.
That's right. They're waterproof too.
I'm surprised I haven't seen more publishers doing stuff like that, because I've played other games that have done that. They'll even come with their specialized counters to mark where the map is cut off. But
Mark is an innovator. That's why.
Well, I still have to use a laser pointer or something to make sure I'm staying within the lines, because there's 20 hexes in between them, in between the markers. So, yeah, I like having a little strip to delineate that that border.
Right.
I use those border strips that we have for old school tactical on a lot of games I play that are not old school tactical. I just mean in general, they're very useful.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I just saw Claude's in the chat as well. Claude Whalen's he's the designer of Kernstown and the there he is, and the upcoming Wilson's Creek as well.
Nice.
Another one of those elite developers. And Grognar.com's in the chat too. That's either Mark or Harvey. I'm not sure who's using that particular. Yeah.
Who is it? Which one? Speak up. Let us know. or maybe it's both. And we had Curtis was saying how he found it interesting to learn the designer's philosophy, how you incorporate that philosophy into the games. And you were talking about the column shifts before versus using the DRMs.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people. Well, so when people ask me, what advice do I give to designers? I always say, design what you love and what you know, right? Don't design a game because you think it's going to sell well. I'll do another Bulge game if your heart's not in. Do what you love, do what you know. And the other thing is design what you like to play, right? So if you don't like to play chit pull games, don't design a chit pull game. Come up with something else. So, there's Kev.
Now we get the whole crew in there.
Wow.
What's up, everybody? Look at you guys. Sorry for interrupting. Carry on.
We were just talking about making what we like to play, but
right. Right. So he was talking about designers' philosophies in games. Yeah. So I mean, you can't help but put yourself in these games. So the blind sword system all comes from the way I like to play my games. That goes all the way back to Combat Commander and those kinds of games and World at War, where I like the chit pull excitement, the sudden game turn end. In Combat Commander, I just like the fact that all of a sudden somebody will show up out of nowhere and you have to deal with it, right? And I know a lot of people find even the card deck's frustrating, but to me, that's kind of another challenge that you have to deal with in the game.
Yeah.
We actually got around that a little bit by saying that, and I don't know if you saw Eddie's videos, but every event card, if it doesn't fit what you wanted to do at that time on the bottom, it says default event. So as a default, you can use that card to move any unit 1 hex, or actually a minimum move, 2 hexes along the road, or you can have any one unit just shoot. So what that was a rule that I put in because of the dead card issue, but it also ended up being something very interesting for the player, because as you're getting these cards and you've got these events set up, circumstances on the field might change, and all of a sudden you might want to spend that card for that one shot that you weren't planning on at the beginning of the turn. But all of a sudden you got this very valuable card, and then now your decision is, do I use it for the event or am I going to shoot with this one unit because something just happened that I got to deal with?
Yeah, I like that. It's dynamic. It'll change. Right. You can change your battle plan as the turn goes out instead of being locked into something.
Right. You might have to.
Yeah, you have the flexibility to do so, which is real important.
Right. So I like the thinking on your feet type of gaming rather than the chess type of gaming, I guess, more adventure type of gaming.
Yeah. See, the Pants has more of a tactical feel to it because that's pretty much how that plays out.
Oddly enough, it ends up becoming more quote unquote realistic. I get emails all the time from people that say that Blind Swords is the most realistic ACW system they've played. And that's because it plays like the history they read. Guys making crazy charges that you didn't plan, guys falling back that you didn't plan, entire divisions not activating that you were counting on going in. That happened all the time. So, and that was part of that frustration of playing games before. It wasn't playing like my history was reading.
Yeah, I gotta say that's why I like the chip pull, the card pull mechanic so much, is that you couldn't count anything as guaranteed. With an I go, you go system, you're going to move all your crap, he's going to move all his crap, and it's just going to keep going back and forth like that. But with a chip pull, you really can have it to where this unit isn't guaranteed to have its turn, so you're going to have to kind of plan around what's pulled out of the cup or pulled off the card deck.
Right. I would say that if you have a plan A, you also need a plan B and C when you play this game, because you have to account for the fact that maybe your guys aren't going to activate, maybe his guys activated that he didn't plan on. So now all of a sudden the situation's changed. So do you have a reserve in position to deal with that, or don't you? That's all part of the military strategy, right?
Yeah. That's why they say that no plan survives first contact with the enemy, because you'll have this grand plan, and you can do that in the chess style war games like you were talking about. But when it comes to something like this, where everything's very dynamic, you have to think on your feet, and it becomes much more of a tougher challenge.
Right. I mean, the old school war gamers don't really like blind swords that much because it's just a different approach to everything. So the developer's saying it plays great solo. They actually developed it most of the time solo.
Mm-hmm. So I was catching up on some of the comments.
Old school war gamers like Kev?
Come on now. Don't start. Try to be nice.
He just got here.
Mark's like pushing a button.
So Steve's already he's shilling. Not to shill the game, but this is the best ACW game I've ever played, and one of the best war games. And I've played, tested, and developed lots of them. So that speaks volumes to Herm's design and to their development as well.
I think Steve is an OCS guy too, or TCS, or
really?
An SCS. One of the CSs.
SOL. So now, Mark, what is the challenges you face as a publisher when you're putting together something like this, especially in today's environment where you've got the global crisis that we're dealing with, not just with the pandemic, but also the supply issues that everybody's, dealing with, Suez Canal being blocked, things like that.
Yeah.
I don't think
Mark heard you.
Oh, Mark.
I don't think he heard the first part of the question.
Oh, what?
That was directed towards you, buddy.
Okay. Yes.
Okay.
Is that the right answer?
You guys heard it here first. All games are 90% off in the Flying Pig game store starting right now for the next 24 hours.
Yeah, exactly. Go for it. I was trying to go from my headphones to my speakers, but it wasn't working. So I'm sorry. What did you say?
I was just asking what the challenges for you as the publisher are with the current pandemic issues and also the supply chain issues in the world, Suez Canal being blocked, things like that.
Well, that would have been a big deal. I mean, if we'd had a ship en route at the time. But what's happened more than anything else is that the ships are actually backed up in China. So when you have a game ready to go, let's dial it back to like 2015 or something. As soon as the game was finished overseas in China, it would go on a freighter within 72 hours. Ship over here to the States, and we've been using Quartermaster as our fulfillment company for a long time here. They're CMON's main fulfiller and a lot of other people's now. And it would get to Quartermaster, and 2 days later, they'd all be shipped out. Well, nowadays, you get a game finished, and you could literally wait 3 weeks to a month to find a freighter over in China. And then when it gets in, because of the explosion of Kickstarter, and the explosion of people just figuring out that shipping games out of your garage is not the way to do business anymore, it will get into the States, go to Quartermaster, and it may sit at Quartermaster for 3.5 weeks waiting for a shipping date. Is that a real challenge to me? It's not so much a challenge. It's just another thing that slows up the delivery to people. And that's too bad. I mean, I'm a gamer myself. I hate waiting on games, and I totally understand anybody else that hates waiting on games.
Yeah.
And the 90% off sale is over.
Every company seems to have that problem, though. I know exactly what you're talking about. They every Kickstarter I've had come in the past, handful of months, and they seem to come in waves. They all every update is saying the same thing. We're waiting on a ship to leave, and then when the ship finally leaves a few weeks later, it's like, hey, it's here. They're shipping it out as fast as they can go. That's the only update we can give you. We don't know when they're going to get to it. But it's not just you guys; it's every company.
Oh, sure. And it's also an interesting excuse too for companies. I've noticed when we get on to customer service issues with companies that we're dealing with for my business, the wait times have quadrupled and I don't think it's any busier with any of these companies, but been a great excuse to say, let's go back to the touch tone system and, and trying to push all the buttons, and your wait will be 42 minutes. And so what do? You hang up. It's an interesting change. I think people have kind of gone back 10 years in customer service levels. So you'll be right at home, Mark. Boom! Payback.
Shots fired back.
No, people just have to understand that it's not the publisher's fault. It's not any of the publisher's fault. They can only do so much. They have a tracking number. They have to wait until stuff actually arrives, and once the shipping is started, there's really not much else they can do.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, but of course, to really be honest and let people understand, how it all works. Yeah, it is the publisher's fault sometimes, but that still doesn't mean we aren't trying as hard as we can. Sometimes the delays are simply because of redos, of blind testing, of, I thought that it was going to work this way, but it doesn't seem to be working this way, so we're going to have to redo these counters, redo this scenario, start over and test again. At least I know that's how it is with us.
Right.
So, some of it's my fault, but what I will say is it's never for lack of trying with us, and I think it's never for lack of trying with most publishers.
Sure. How long did it take you guys to develop something like OST, which was kind of that was a long, did that cycle work out the way you wanted it to in just terms of time and things like that? Because that was a huge system.
Yeah. And if you remember, I don't know if you remember doing this, but it was you, me, Shane. Who else did we have that we played an early Vassal version of OST? Who?
Vance Strickland.
Oh, okay, Vance. Yeah, Vance Strickland. Yeah. OST took, to say a lot of development discredits what a great job Shane did, because he's an excellent designer and I love working with him. But we have to work at developing that as we went along, and that took quite a while.
Right.
Of course, the actual production took a while because it was such a huge game. But all in all, it wasn't too bad, and I'm glad where it is now. I like working with designers that can do two things, and that's one, somebody that's easy to get along with, and the other thing is that they're an adult designer. So by an adult designer, I mean Herm and I can agree on a type of game. Shane and I can agree on what the next volume is. Greg Porter and I can agree on what he's going to be working on. And they designed the damn thing, and when they give it to me, it is freaking right. There are too many designers in the world that think what they need to do is just design a kit, and somebody's going to develop it for them. Maybe somebody else will, but nobody at this company ever. Because I don't want to be developing a game. I could be working on my own design. So when Herm is working on a game, it's going to be done. He's hard to get along with, but it's going to be done.
I was going to say, so 50% of the time it's working out for you.
Yeah.
I heard that Herm's a bit of a diva. Yeah.
Yes.
He is. He's a diva.
According to Nancy, yes.
I have to clear every call to him through his wife. I have to go, Nancy, can I talk to him? And she hands the phone over and goes, Herm, it's your boyfriend.
So Jeff Anderson has a question. I'm curious how you make the 3-day game work. Does Sickles head out to the peach orchard or stay where he was told?
Right. So this is why we have 13 scenarios. So if you want to play with Sickles where he was historically, then you want to play the day 2 scenario because everything starts where it did historically. If you don't want Sickles to be there because you decide he doesn't want to be, you don't want him to be there, then you play the 2-day scenario and you send Sickles wherever you like it to send him. So nothing. I'm against scripted games. I'm for historically weighted games, but I'm not going to make you do anything. But if you play in the second day from the beginning, Sickles is going to be out there because that's the historical scenario. But if you're playing the campaign scenario, you can send Sickles wherever you like to send Sickles.
Perfect.
Yep.
Let's see what other questions we have here. Oh, there was something. Oh, there we go. Somebody's saying he tested Lincoln pennies. Herman uses silver dollars. So it's actually
it's Mark DeGosta. Hey, Mark. He runs the grognard.com website.
Mm-hmm. And chip hole's nice for solo, built-in fog of war, which is very true. I prefer chip hole for solo because of just that reason. You can play both sides very easy and not have to worry about it. Oh, did I cheat myself by moving these guys, or am I having a bias by playing these guys first? Now, so leave it up to the hand of fate. Leave it up to the
company. It has a built-in staggered effect of the way you play the game. Yes,
true.
So because the two of you, elite YouTubers, actually got your hands on the games. How did you feel about the size of the hexes and the counters and stuff like that? What you think? I'm curious. I didn't talk about all this. I apologize, but I'm late.
Mo has it. I don't have it, so you're gonna have to defer to Mo.
Oh, you didn't? I thought you got it too.
No, I didn't. Just Mo.
Didn't get a chance to.
You and I both suck. Sorry.
That was great, and the counters were smaller. Mark can correct me if I'm wrong. Counters were slightly smaller than what the finished counters will be. Correct?
They were actually about the same size, and I'll tell you why I hesitate. They were 7/8 inches, okay, which is hard to say after a few red ales, but they were 7/8. The actual counters will be 13/16. So they should have been bigger, right? But remember, I told you that the company that made this prototype messed up on some of the counters, so we literally had to trim them by hand so they would look okay. So I don't know. I might have trimmed off a 1/16 of an inch. They were real close to the right size. Yeah.
Yeah. No, they were good. And if you see in the video and the pictures that both I and Kevin posted up, you can see what it looks like on the map. I mean, the contrast is great on it. They really do stand out. There's great artwork on it, and they're good size, and the hexes are very easy to read. But the other thing I liked about it too is the hexes. This goes back to the Rick Barber map. Is the hexes were easy to see, but they were not. They didn't stand out too much. They were just right, because sometimes if they stand out too much, it takes away from the map, I think. Whereas the hexes, you can see the map, understand where the hexes were, but still enjoy the map for what it was.
Right.
No, I understand what you mean. I've played some games where the hex stands out so much that it, like, you just see the hex. It's almost like it's hexes with some colors laid out underneath them.
Like the first edition of Band of Heroes. Did you ever have a copy of that? Oh, why not, man? I mean, I love that.
That was actually one I tried to track down when I first got into wargaming. I was like, okay, this one sounds like a good one. I tried to track it down. I couldn't find a copy anywhere.
I'll send you a copy.
Yeah.
I've got it now, but I've got all that stuff.
How about those hexes, huh? You're not gonna miss a hex side in it.
So Stigler says, must Sickles leg end up in a different location than the rest of the band by the end of day two?
That's a good one. Sickles.
Speaking of the counters, by the way, Jose did a wonderful job on the counter artwork. I've worked with like Tim Allen and other guys before where we've been you're welcome, Jeff. Thank you for backing us. I've worked with other artists too that, I can say, this is my vision for the counter art, and they get it right away. Tim Allen's like that, and Jose's like that too. I could just send him one set of requests and say, hey, look, how about, can you add this? And I mean, he nails it every single. I even have to text Mark and say, I can't believe how good Jose is. He's like, he's reading my mind. So you'll see, this is very ACW geek stuff, but it has no effect on gameplay. But because I'm an ex-miniaturist and love painting miniatures and putting mustaches on my 6mm Prussian Grenadiers, there's tons of detail on the counters. I mean, there's Zouave uniforms, there's black hats on the Iron Brigade. there are one guy, I forget his name, Mark, but one guy wrote in on the Kickstarter page and he said, hey, the North Carolina units were really, really well supplied and equipped because the state government really took good care of them. And I said, really? I didn't know that. So I looked it up and he was right. So now all the North Carolina units, we changed it at the last second. All the North Carolina units have nice spiffy gray uniforms in the game. So there's all these small geeky details on the counters that I know are there, and then other ACW fanatics will notice and appreciate, I hope.
And speaking of geeky,
and then
I was going to
say, how about those Louisiana guys that are in the pajamas? Did you mention
Louisiana Tigers? Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Well, if you guys see on the screen there, that is on the Kickstarter page. And what we're going to do is I'm going to move this out of the way so I can actually share that screen. But let's see if I can go. There we go. If you look, where is it? No, that's just on the webpage itself. If you go to the Kickstarter page, go down to the bottom right where it says shipping, right? Go there right now because this actually is going to be a good thing. And go to the Kickstarter page and look there. And when you guys are at that page, I'm going to bring something up here for everybody because thanks to the kindness, the very generous offer from Mark, we're going to have a couple of prizes that we're going to give out tonight. But you have to do a little work. It's not, you don't get nothing. You don't get something for nothing here. Go to that page, like I was saying, and there are unit counters, as you saw there. I think there's like 30 of them, both Union and Confederate. And I want you to look at all of them. And there are 2 counters on there that have a little additional detail. This was extra moral support that the units historically brought with them into the field in the Battle of Gettysburg. If you can name the 2 units by brigade and their counter values, both the SP and the CR numbers, you'll be entered as a possible winner of one of 2 special prizes. We'll give you that information in a little bit as to what you'll get, but you're definitely going to want to win one of these prizes. And again, thank you to Mark for being so generous and bringing that here to our listeners.
I'm looking at it right now to try to figure out what thing it is. So I would suggest pulling it up not on your phone because the detail is not large enough to see, folks. So try to pull it up on your computer so you can get a better look.
Okay, what are we looking for?
You are looking for, let me go back here. There are 2 counters on the unit counter display that have additional detail on them that represents some extra moral support that the units historically brought with them to the Battle of Gettysburg.
Do they have like doobies in their mouth or something?
If you can name the 2 units,
I see one of them. Okay.
You have to name the 2 units by brigade and their counter values, the SP and CR numbers.
Okay, yeah, I see one of them.
Entered in.
Or at least I think
find the second one.
So Blood is clarifying the Sickles.
Yes.
I don't want to say anything out loud. And are they just supposed to type it in chat if they see what it is?
Yes. Don't say anything. Yes.
Don't say anything until I ask.
I'm not saying anything. I'm gonna keep it quiet.
Yeah. Why don't we do this also? Just private chatted you guys the link. Why don't you give them the link as well? I know you probably did it already, but.
But if they type it in the chat, won't everybody know? Am I missing something?
No.
Yeah,
they'll just get.
Tell them to just go and make the deluxe pledge and type it in the notes.
All right, that's one way to go with it.
This is why Flying Pig is successful.
Tricking the dumb ones. I think I've only found one.
Yeah, Jose was good.
I resemble that.
I'm glad you enjoyed it, Joel. I'm glad it helped you.
Oh, I see. I see that. Look at that. Oh.
No, don't.
Hey.
I'm not saying it's adorable.
No, stop.
No.
They're giving away too much.
Well, she's really hot.
Mute Kevin, quick.
Okay,
it's like the Bordello in OCS in DAC, right?
All right. Yes.
So yeah. Okay. And
all right.
Now back to Herm. So we'll come back to that contest here in a little bit.
But anyway, yeah. So Jose did it, and people have really commented that the artwork is fantastic. It's very immersive. Again, and I've said this before too, that part of the gaming experience for me personally. I mean, I know a lot of people think that artwork is superficial and not important to the design, but for me, it is. And I mean, Mark's company does a fantastic job at it, and it's totally immersive. Everything's got to be immersive. You got to feel like you're playing the Civil War, and all of those little details, to me, just add up to a better experience. Oh boy,
everybody thinks they got it.
I just found the second one. Yeah.
Okay.
Did you notice the green skin tone on the little alien from Invaders from Dimension X? That was added in there.
I thought the M16 was invented after 1864.
Exactly. But there's a good point right here. LBW says great counter really makes the game.
Oh, great. Thank you. Yeah, I agree. Playing these games is not just about playing the game. It's about immersing yourself in the history of the game, I guess. And that's part of it.
Well, look how far we've come from, Avalon Hill's Stalingrad, right?
Yeah.
to today. It's fantastic. And I don't care what anybody says about the glory days of 3-color maps and 2-color counters.
Pink Panzers.
and pink, for goodness sake, pink Panzers. Yeah. But that's another company. But it's just glorious that we can do this. And it's just a richness to the gameplay and the narrative, and it's evocative of the period. And if artists do it right, it just lifts the whole game up into another level, right?
Mm-hmm. Totally agree.
Oh, absolutely.
Like not to talk about other companies, but GMT Sekigahara, right? That while the game's okay and it's a pretty good for a block game, all the artwork and the map and all of the things, everything around that game make it that much better a game because of the way the artwork is done on the map and the counters, or the blocks or whatever.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
So when you take these counters with that kind of historical detail and you add it to Rick Barber's map, which feels like you're in that period, also, the whole thing comes together. Yeah.
Especially when you're going to be that big too. I think that's just going to look super sexy. So I'm very excited about it.
Mm-hmm. No, it definitely looks great.
I hope so.
And then you saw, like in the video when I did that flyover of Pickett's Charge, I thought that was perfect because it was, just like your solitaire game in magnificent style. The scenario itself was named that as well. So I figured it was cool to see it set up on the map and do that little flyover bit. And that gives you a good idea of what the map looks like with the counters on it. And that's not a big scenario either. It's a kind of a small scenario, especially when you look at the whole entire map and you have everything out there. That's going to be pretty impressive. It's going to draw a crowd at a con. That's for sure.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Hopefully they'll have plenty of stock after the Kickstarter.
Well, that's up to Mark.
Yeah.
We will.
Yeah, I'm assuming you're getting some to put on retail, aren't you?
Of course, we always do. Yeah, we will. We'll have to see how many.
So now that you guys have had a few minutes to look at the maps, go ahead and enter your answers over here, and we will tell you if you're correct or incorrect. And then we will have a random draw.
The next Whiskey Charlie, right?
Yes, the next Whiskey Charlie in 2 years. No, we'll do it. We'll do it here. We'll do it here right now. So go ahead and put your answers in the chat, and then we will get them all together, and we will do a random draw.
Oh, you're making these guys work.
Yeah, this isn't my idea. I would have made him do a lot more. No.
Exactly.
Are you going to roll dice like Rob does?
I might do something like that.
The tumbling dice?
Yeah.
That's a good idea, but I'd have to get the camera set up and everything. And right now my mic is working, but my headphones aren't. Today's just not been a good day. But yeah, it looks like we got everybody has been finding it. Some people, like Von Deacon, did not answer the question correctly. Neither did Tad. Because the question, if you guys remember, the requirement was to give the information for both units, the brigade name, and the counter values.
Yep.
So you guys don't listen. And then you say that designers and publishers don't write good rule books.
Yeah, it's because you can't read the freaking
Follow
rules,
the directions.
let alone listen to them, right?
Exactly. And Vex is saying he will resist cheating and copying other people's answers. Vex wins.
Yeah, he should get an entry just for being honest. Right?
Yeah, that's integrity.
Exactly. So what we've got is now that everybody's got their answers, it is Baxter 7-3 and Kelly 5-5. And Herm, why don't you explain those counters and what it is that everybody's seeing on them?
Oh, you want me to do this already?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So the Baxter counter has the dog Sally, who is actually on their statue at Gettysburg. That was their mascot and was killed in 1865. Made it through almost through the entire war. And the 5-5 is Kelly, which is the Irish Brigade, and that is their Irish Wolfhound, which they brought to battle with them. There's actually a third counter, which we've discovered late.
Thank you, Dale.
What's that?
Just thanking Dale for pledging.
Dale pledged.
Oh, yes. Thank you, Dale. The third counter is Stewart's unit. We actually, Rick Barber told me about this story with a dog named Grace, that it was a mutt that they adopted. And it was actually, the dog was killed at Culp's Hill. And the story goes that the soldiers were actually crying. With all these dead soldiers around, they were actually crying because the dog died. So it was quite a story. So Grace is also on Stewart's Confederate unit.
That's very cool.
That's cool.
You know,
you think with all that death and destruction that seeing a dog die would hit guys a little bit differently.
You know,
Right.
They actually told us something interesting in the Marines about the Civil War. And one of the reasons, and Mo, you might have heard this too, that you remember the B-mod targets shaped kind of like a person that we would shoot at for target practice? Mm-hmm. That one of the reasons they switched to using targets like that was because after the Civil War, they found a lot of guys had been shot without firing their rifles because they couldn't bring themselves to shoot at another person. So, like, the mindset wasn't there, and they wanted to instill that into the troops. So they changed the targets to look more like people after that. So people wouldn't freeze up in the moment and not want to shoot their... I mean, I guess it kind of relates in the fact that it wasn't just another conflict. It was a conflict against other Americans. So they kind of added another mental layer to it, the brother against brother thing that I think would kind of make someone less likely to pull the trigger. But just an interesting story they told us in boot camp about why we shot at the shape of targets that we shot at.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting.
How do you talk the bad guys though into wearing the target concentric circles?
Airdrop it in.
You like have a meeting before the skirmish or something? Hand them out or no?
Yeah, what we do is airdrop it in and say that if you wear these tomorrow, you'll be entered to get a really cool game from Mark Walker, and just wear them and you'll get a free game.
Cool.
Yeah, have them draw the 50 points there in the center, 25 points along here, 10 points along the outer rim.
Right.
100-point bonus right in the middle of the head.
I'm just writing down names right here so I make sure I got everybody.
How many people are you talking about?
About 9 so far.
Yeah.
You can just use the random number generator. Assign them each.
That's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm going to do. So,
gotta see the roll, man.
I wouldn't do it until next Whiskey Charlie to make sure they tune into the next Whiskey Charlie.
Well, that's true. Yeah, so,
you don't care. It's the same 11 guys every time, so it's okay.
So you guys are gonna have to tune into the next Whiskey Charlie. So
That's right.
Have a nice month waiting for you. No, that would be great though. They'd be like, watch everybody just like drops off now. Boom.
Right.
Right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the random number generator up here. And we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We've got 8. I thought we had 9. You guys keep talking while I'm doing this. I got to do administrative stuff and production stuff here at the same time. You guys keep going.
I thought you were a professional at this. I have a question. And are we allowed to talk about other things from Flying Pig as well, or are we already? Okay. So, Mark, what's coming down the pike? How was that? That was pretty good, huh?
That was good.
Yeah. Well, before I answer that, can I give you my opinion of what's coming down the pike questions?
Oh,
geez.
Yeah, you asked for it, Kev.
No, it's pretty short and sweet. It's easy as a game publisher to list a bunch of games. And then 3 years from now, y'all are still waiting on them.
Sure.
So that's what I see go on a lot with these what's coming down the pike stuff. The next two games that are going to come down the pike are going to be Most Fearful Sacrifice and The Long Road. They'll both go to the printer together, and then they'll come back. In early June, we're going to do the Volume 1 second. It's not a second printing. What is it? Second edition. That's it. The Volume 1 second edition for Old School Tactical. Now, what's going on with that is of course, it'll have the latest rules and all that, but it's going to have new artwork for the infantry counters. Shane wasn't happy with the artwork on the first edition of the game, so we're going to go to the second edition for the second edition of Volume 1. We're going to have new artwork on that.
Cool.
The other games we're working on right now is a game called Close Quarter Battles with Gotardo Zancani. And that's going to be a solitaire game based on that Rattenkrieg game that we had in YA 14. But, of course, it'll be the big 1-inch counters and all that. And it will have Stalingrad.
Oh, there we go.
That was weird. I was itching.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyhow, it'll have Stalingrad, Hue, and Fallujah. Will be the three battles in that. So yeah, it will be kind of fun because that's a fun system. As I posted some pictures about, we're pretty far along the road to a game called 85, which is a new game in the Squad Battles series, the 65 series, but it's about the Soviets in Afghanistan. Nice. The next Old School Tactical. After this second edition will be Volume 4, of course, and it's going to be about Sicily and the Mediterranean, which I kind of think is a really neat take on it that Shane's doing. So I'm looking forward to that. And I mean, that's what's coming up in the near future. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
That is.
Yeah. Nice.
All right. So what we're going to do is I'm going to roll on this generator here. Got 9 numbers and generate.
Oh, there we are.
Number 6. We've got 1, 2, 3. The first winner is Todd Wardrobe.
All right, Todd.
So
Todd has prizes.
We'll tell you what the prize is after we generate the second one, and the second one is Robert Carroll.
Oh, Robert.
Not Robert. Anybody but Robert.
All that meanness going on right now. All right, so what I'm going to do is remove this from the thing. This new setup here is a mess.
Congratulations, guys.
So the first one was Todd, and the second is Robert. And Todd, you have your choice of either Crowbar or 65. Ooh. So let us know in the chat which one you want. Plus,
I would lean towards 65.
That's not it. You will get a $25 gift card as well.
Oh my God!
Oh, he does. Yeah.
Make it a 50.
Just keep going.
Mark's not hearing tonight, so I'm just going to keep.
I can't. I got it.
But yeah, so thanks to, like I said, Mark Walker, very generous tonight, giving away 2 games and 2 $25 gift certificates for everybody that's joined us in the chat tonight and placed in this little competition that we had, or a contest, I should say. And I apologize. I'm having a lot of technical issues tonight with my computer. I don't know what's going on when it's possessed, but So Todd, let us know in the chat what you want. Do you want crowbar or 65?
He's Googling. He's Googling right now.
Yeah, 60. I'll tell you, 65 is good. I've played that one. It's got a nice solo system.
Tons of minis guy.
Crowbar is also a real fun game.
Oh yeah,
Love Crowbar.
Crowbar is solitaire.
The solitaire to Hawk.
That's
I heard.
Yeah,
I heard. Who's the designer of that game?
Yeah,
the guy that's really difficult to deal with. Oh my God! Now we're getting
he's getting serious.
Now we're getting serious here.
All right, we're ready to go.
So now Todd will take crowbar. That means Robert Carroll, you'll get 65, and you also get a $25 gift certificate.
Woo-hoo!
And again, thank you to Mark Walker for that. That was very kind and generous of you.
Very generous, Mark.
Y'all very welcome. Thank you.
So everybody, if you've not already checked out A Most Fearful Sacrifice, make sure you go to the Kickstarter page, check it out. You have any questions, now is the time to ask them, because we have the designer here and he can answer any questions you have. He's already answered a bunch today. We've talked about it some more, and we're going to still talk about it here a little bit more before we head off for the night. But
we may have to come up with more stretch goals by the weekend.
This is true. Do you have a bunch of stretch goals? Do you have a bunch more stretch goals planned?
I think you're up to 7, 8 stretch goals now.
Yeah, we are. And Herm and I, and as a matter of fact, Eddie, we're talking about some, all these are stretch goals that we're going to do. I just don't know if everybody will reach them. One of them, we're going to have Jackson, a what if. Mm-hmm. It just won't be a scenario, Herm, or just a card that lets him command, but we'll have Jackson as if he wasn't killed at the wilderness.
Right. It'll be just a Stonewall Jackson core card. So if you want to have Jackson at Gettysburg, you just replace his core card. We might even have more than one, so you could rate him whatever you feel he would have been at the time. There's always debate about that. And then some kind of overlay, so you can on the command display. So Yule's sitting there in the second core, so you could put Jackson over him. And it's just an option if you want to see, play with Jackson. You could make him superior. You could make him average, whatever you feel like.
Awesome.
Superior.
You can make him superior.
Actually,
or awesome.
Claude Whalen had a great idea. He said you can start him off at superior and then knock him down one level each day because he's suffering from his wounds from Chancellorsville. So.
Oh, that's great. What a great idea.
That is. I like the big coffee cup as a stretch goal for the chit pull.
Yeah, except it's card pull. That's the other thing. Well, we can still do a coffee cup. I told Mark to put Flying Pig logo on everything. So.
Yeah. That's funny. I think Kev, as a matter of fact, commented on a thing that we had on the Flying Pig page where people were talking about T-shirts. And everybody's going, "Oh man, awesome! We should do T-shirts." This was about a month ago. Oh, fantastic! I'd love. And I said, "Dudes, we've been bringing T-shirts to cons for 5 years, and I think we've sold 4 of them." It sounds like a good idea. Nobody really seemed to want them, though. Another stretch goal is a new and improved and larger TEC for the game. That was another one we were thinking about. And then I think a casserole dish would be great. Yeah, we could have a Flying Pig casserole dish.
What about the possibility of maybe having, now this would be an add-on, not a stretch goal because cost obviously, but maybe a canvas map, both maps together, something that you could roll out instead of having to set up with the hard mounted ones.
Oh, like a neoprene map?
Sure.
Neoprene, canvas, something along those lines. Whatever's cost effective.
Sure. That would be beautiful. Here's the economics of add-ons compared to stretch goals, if you're interested. Mm-hmm. Let's say we did a stretch goal here. Let's say here's a couple of add-on suggestions. I think your suggestion is great, Nate. That's good. So, what if we did a rollout 41 by 60 It'd be 41 by 60 neoprene map. One, it would be super cool, right?
Yeah.
And let's say we did it as an add-on, so people have to pay for it. Whatever seems reasonable, I give up $20. I don't know. I mean, I'm not great at pricing these things.
Probably 80.
But if we only had 80, 30, I don't know. But let's say we only had 50 people that wanted to do it. Then I've committed to them that I will give them this. And 50 times 20 is $1,000. And you see, I will have to order a minimum of 500 of them, and I can't get them for $1,000. So that's something that we always have to think about. I'm dead serious when I agree that is a great idea. And then on the flip side, doing it as an add-on, I'm not sure after 15 Kickstarters, and I could be totally wrong. I'm not sure that add-ons really generate that much. I try to, as far as pledges, I try to put them in there because I'm a gamer. I enjoy doing this. I like getting some extra stuff. But I'm always looking for add-ons that don't create extra time in the Kickstarter. I learned early on, I mean, you can promise the world more scenarios, all this stuff. It just slows everything down. So we try to do add-ons that are just physical things like like what you see so far. So if I did it as an add-on, I don't know where I would put it that it could pay for itself. I know that sounds really negative, and I think it's a good idea, and it may be something we end up doing. But those are the kind of things we balance. Mm-hmm. And the really bad part about it is I don't know Kevin's business, but I bet in his business he has metrics and statistics he can look at. And in wargaming, by God, you just don't. Mm. I mean, there are a few rules of thumb and stuff, but it makes it tough to decide, like, hey, what should I do as an add-on? What should I do as a stretch goal? Something like that. But that's a great idea. I love that idea.
I think the larger maps are very attractive, but so few people take them up. There was one of the Italian companies would offer the big latex map. I think he literally went and had them printed one-offs, right? Because he would, out of 500 orders, he'd get 5 or 7 or 8 or 10. And so they were super expensive. That's why I said $80, because they're $70 or $80 if you're going to go get them done one-offs.
Weren't those like the Gore-Tex maps or something like that?
Yeah, like the Gore-Tex.
Neoprene, yeah.
Part of it
with neoprene maps is storage too. I noticed that with some of the dungeon crawls and stuff I've ordered. Right. You order the neoprene map, it looks really cool, but then what do you do with it?
Right.
It doesn't.
Well, you can roll it up.
You can roll it up, and it doesn't go back in a box.
No,
you got to put it in a tube or something.
Right, exactly.
I've got a closet full of them, right?
I like my closet full of tubes. It's full of awesome stuff. Part of it, though, is the way that I'm looking at it, because I do look at it a lot of times from a filming perspective, right? So I have to think about where my lighting's going to be, and there's a glossy coating on the mounted maps. So if I can unroll it, then that takes away one of the things I have to worry about. I don't have to worry about maybe laying down plexiglass or, whatever the case may be with it. So with games like that, if it's going to have a big map, I like being able to invest in that. But I can understand what you're saying, that it's not a cost-effective thing if not enough people are going to actually invest in it.
Yeah.
And most people don't
it's
need
just a bit of a risk.
Right.
Yeah, it's just a bit of a risk. When you do it as an add-on, if I get 123 people that want it, then I'm in like Flint. If I get 60 people that want it, then I'm going to lose money on it. By the way, I've been meaning to tell you, I watched your Fallout Wasteland Warfare video.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It was fantastic. It inspired me to paint all my Fallout miniatures. So great job. You did a good job with the cameras on that.
Yeah, they came out great.
Yeah, I saw a picture of them. They're great.
I was sharing a picture with anybody that would take it. Some people go, man, I don't want that stuff.
We'll be playing that at COVID-Con.
Yeah.
Yeah, we will. Yeah, first day.
Oh, Fallout's great. Plus, if you've got a 3D printer, you can print out all the terrain and extra minis that you want.
Got a couple
Did you
questions for you
print
guys.
out the car, whatever it's called? Sorry,
Yes.
we'll get back to.
Yep.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah,
I
I
get
did.
back to the Kickstarter.
Yeah, it's available on Thingiverse. Just in case you're looking for it, just type in
Okay.
Fallout or just Wasteland Warfare, and it should pop up in there.
So what's the answer to all these questions?
So Henry's questions is yeah. So Mark and I were just talking about
Herm's
this.
favorite question.
Yeah. So here's the bottom line on the Confederate counters. They're technically as close to butternut as Jose could get them, and that is just, two things I didn't want to do is design another brigade scale ACW game and another game where the Confederates are in gray, because they were notoriously not in gray all the time, and they were they mostly wore butternut, which is kind of a brown, yellowish brown. So we tried to get the counters looked at. That's my geeky thing. That was just something that I wanted to do. And Mark and I have discussed this a number of times, and Eddie and I have discussed this. It's just my attempt to make the game not look like every other Civil War game.
Amen.
As far as Stewart and Custer, Mark and I just talked about that today. They're not in the game right now. And the only reason they're not in the game, we discussed having that as a stretch goal, added whatever, but the logistics of adding that part of the field and those units and coming up then with rules for cavalry charges and all that other stuff, it just wasn't worth the investment in time and effort to do that. I honestly don't think, some people really want to do that, and I understand that, but I don't think there are enough people would have been interested in doing the cavalry battle on the third day. It's an interesting affair because you do have Custer and you do have Stewart, but I don't know that it's necessarily interesting enough to go through all that work to add that as a scenario, because it would have taken another map and some more counters and some more rules.
Sounds like an expansion module.
Exactly. Yeah.
New stretch goal.
So now to sound like one of those late night, I'm going to sound like one of those Vince from ShamWow or something like that.
Well,
but wait,
I learned my lesson about when we were doing Crowbar. And Mark and I have talked about this. Is the stretch goals can involve more designing and playtesting because we did that with Crowbar, and it was, boy, we talk about scrambling around.
Well, you see that a lot on Kickstarters, especially with the hobby Euro side of things. Yeah. They'll have like $150,000 worth of stretch goals, and then the game is supposed to deliver in October of 21 or 22, or it'll be 21. By the time they're done, well, it's going to be October 22 because they added on way more than they really planned for, and they weren't ready ahead of time. And one thing that war gamers do over the hobby side that they do right, I think, is they have the game pretty much designed, ready to go, and they might have to add some things in after, but it's very little because everything is pre-planned ahead of time. So that way the turnaround's a lot quicker that way.
Yeah, I agree with that. There's some companies that have it right. Like Simon, I have Zombicide Second Edition sitting on my table right there, and they've got expansions, but they probably play test that years ahead of time. They probably have that all lined up for years.
Yeah,
they probably have 100 people in the company. But
exactly,
you're right. They do it right. They really do.
Yeah.
Well, most of the Kickstarters, you've really got to, and Mark, you can probably expand on this, but you've got to know how big the box is going to be with all the add-ons and all the stretch goals, and is it all going to fit? How much is it going to weigh to ship it, and then how much is it going to cost to make it before you even set your base price, because you're going to include all this stuff. Unless it's a one sheet scenario, that's not going to make a difference. You've got to know pretty much up front what all your stretch goals are.
Sure. Mm-hmm. It's an interesting thing about that, Kevin. And real quick before I answer that, let me answer that OST question. That's a good question. Where are the big Russian tanks? I don't know. Maybe we can do that as a add-on or a stretch goal when we do the OST1 second edition. That's definitely it's a thought. It really is. I appreciate you bringing it up. So,
now what big Russian tanks do you mean? Like the JS tanks, KV1s?
What's KV1?
I don't know. I was going to ask Shane.
There's already KV1s.
Yeah,
when I think
say,
big Russian tank, I think T90, but I guess that isn't what he means. T80,
KV2,
T72, T55.
Bigger number.
Joseph Stalin.
What was it?
Strong
JS3, right?
JS3, yeah.
JS3 and a JS2. Of course, I think we already have the T3485.
Yep.
I can't remember.
That's in there, and the KV1's in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
The KV1's the big one. I mean, the primary big one. So what other one could we talk about besides the KV2?
I think you're probably talking about the late war tanks, right?
Right. KV1 was early war, wasn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were going up against that with like Mark IIIs, I think. Seriously, weren't they? I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, but about the about what you set the price based on the weight and all that kind of stuff in Kickstarters, I don't know about other people. But the interesting thing is what you have to do is balance how much you think it'll cost to print with how quick with SU-150. I thought we had a 152. I don't know. Anyhow, balance how much it costs to print with how quickly you can fund. It's really crazy. So I could not.
Is everybody drinking? What's going on?
I know. What's going on in chat?
This is Whiskey Charlie. They take the name very seriously here.
Literally, right.
Let's get there.
So anyway, I debated doing, for example, a most fearful sacrifice, setting the funding goal at 16,000.
That seems too low.
I couldn't have printed it for that.
Yeah.
But the plus side of setting it for 16,000 is so you can go on social media and go, oh, we funded in 19 seconds and all that kind of stuff. Because I make fun of it, but I guarantee you, if you say you funded in 2 minutes, people go, wow, I better go check that out. Yeah, or at least I know I do it, and I think other people do too. So you're constant. It's just juggling match. Like if I literally figured out how much exactly it would take to print 1,000 or 1,500 of Most Fearful Sacrifice, how much it would take to ship them the whole 9 yards. I probably would have set this Kickstarter at like $32,000 just to fund. But it isn't as impressive.
Right.
If, I didn't know it went crazy like the first day because Herm is so awesome. But it's just so I said, okay, I think we're going to do fine. I'm going to set it at 20,000 so I can get a high squeaky voice and go, we funded in 2 hours and put those banners up everywhere.
Right.
Well, I hate to say it, but you're
so
right,
though.
People look for that.
It's true.
They do. But
yes.
It doesn't matter as much. And too many people I see go, oh, well, I want to make sure it funds first before I back. And it's like, okay, well, it's not going to back if you don't back
Nope, it's not.
But it's different, though. It's different, though, for war games versus the hobby games. Because the hobby games, they're in such a much more dense market that the whole FOMO thing that you get from funded in 2 minutes or 19 seconds or whatever. And somebody's got to make a GIF of Mark when he was doing that, with the high pitch voice. We got to get that. but that would just be great. And then we'll make that his Facebook profile. but with war games, they're,
the Kickstarter pledging thing has gotten, I think, radicalized. And I don't mean that in a negative way whatsoever, but, it is you get 90% of your funding in the first 4 days and the last 2 days.
Yeah.
So if you look at it a couple of years ago, the average Kickstarter was running for 30 days. And now they're shortening more and more. I look at companies that I think really know what they're doing, like CMON and stuff like that. These guys have got lawyers that are doing the research. They have the metrics that I don't have. And when CMON's doing 1 week Kickstarters, that tells you something. Yeah. I mean, we have all this time in the middle where you don't usually get many pledges, but because of Herm, we are getting a good number. I mean, we're getting 6 maybe 6 a day, which is not bad for the dead part of the campaign right now.
Right.
Well, I think that's your advertising time. I mean, your extra advertising, your buffer time. That's the time where you need to go out and get the people who are going to back in those last 2 days, right? Right before the Kickstarter closes. Plenty of people hear about it there at the beginning before it starts, but even I'm part of the community, and I still miss war games that go on Kickstarter, and I don't see it until after it's already.
Oh, I do too.
Yeah.
We can't fix stupid, Nate.
Damn it,
But that's the thing. The other thing too about that fine balance about Kickstarter is if you go 30 days and everybody, like you were saying, the first few days, first 4 days or so, that's when the hype is there and everybody's wanting to jump in on the Kickstarter. And then the last 48 hours in between that time period, you could lose somebody that would have pledged for this because something else came along, a CMON or something like that, and they were only doing 7 days, 10 days. So I just dropped $150 on that. I can't afford this other one now. So you're competing for dollars in that way too.
Yeah, you're capturing the dollars. Yeah, capturing the dollars. The people
Exactly.
go, I get it. It's only 10 days. Every Kickstarter, I typically click the button and go, remind me before, the last 48 hours. And that's when
me too.
That's when I go and make my choice. Do I really want this? Where does it fit in my little, budget for gaming, etc.?
I've found that I've started doing a lot more of the $1 backing. That way I have access to the pledge manager when it comes out.
Yep.
And once that hits and I get the pledge manager, if I have the money and if I'm still like gung-ho about the game, then I'll go ahead and pledge for whatever amount of it. But if I decide not to, I'm out $1.
Yeah.
So I'm not losing a whole lot if I have changed my mind in that period of time, or something comes up with the kids and I can't afford it.
That's $3.
Sure. The pledge managers have become a big deal and very helpful. I mean, the Long Road just got the most pledges we've ever had for late pledging because of the pledge manager. And the Long Road is a real mid-level Kickstarter for us. Some people aren't going to buy into the paranormal stuff, and cool for them. That isn't my point. My point is it's just a mid-level Kickstarter for us. It didn't do poorly, didn't do great, but then it went to the pledge manager, and for some reason we've gotten numerous pledges for it through the pledge manager. The point of this whole thing being, I think more and more people are doing that, Nate. I think more and more people are pledging $1 and then waiting on the pledge manager.
Well, I think it goes into what I was saying before. It's like, I want to go for this, so I'll put $1 in because I just dropped $150 on CMON to get all the extra miniatures and stuff, but I can get in on the pledge manager and I can jump on it later and I can afford it because I'll have another paycheck or two by then, so that it does benefit you. And also, isn't it better for the publisher to get it on the back end a little bit more so than just on the front end with the Kickstarter itself through the pledge manager? Isn't it better, more beneficial?
Still pay the same.
That's a good question. I don't know. I mean, literally monetarily, it's exactly the same.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Monetarily, it's the same. Both CrowdOx, which is who we use, and a lot of people do, and Kickstarter are going to take their cut out of it. But probably it's better to get it on the front end, because when you get it on the front end, you look successful, and when you look successful, people come pledge more. It's a human trait.
Yeah, I mean,
Isn't that funny?
You're right. I passed over some that look good, but they're at 10%. I'm like, all right, scroll.
Oh yeah,
next.
Stigler is just really trying to get under Herman on Herman's
he's doing the play-by-play. No,
go ahead, Mark. I'm sorry.
I'm going to shut up after this. And the thing about the 10% Kickstarters are, if they're at 10% nowadays, if you're at 10% after 4 hours, you might as well shut it down.
Yeah, you're not making it.
Right? You ain't gonna make that up. Yeah. At 4 hours, even if it's just a reasonable war game Kickstarter, you've got to be around 60-70%.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think in this dead period in the middle here, I mean, Mark and it's for me, who's going to pledge up front and who's going to pledge at the end. Finding the people in the middle, like kind of trying to find that audience, maybe on Facebook or Instagram, whatever, that maybe would be interested in your game, but maybe is not in that normal circle of people that we all talk to all the time. So, I think that's part of the mission in the middle, right?
Right.
Is to get those people who, hey, yeah, I do want a Gettysburg War game that's that size.
Have you guys reached out
before.
Have you guys reached out to like Gettysburg, National Park and to any of the reenactors, things like that? See if any of those people would.
No, but Claude Whalen has a connection with the Gettysburg gift shop, and he said that he would bring a copy of it personally. He would bring it there and show it.
Nice.
To see if they would maybe, talk to Mark about carrying it or whatever. So, yeah.
That's a good idea, Mo, but no, I haven't. I find the most, if paid advertisement, the most effective way is Facebook and Instagram. I used to pay pretty much through the nose, really, when you think about it, for a Board Game Geek ad. And then I can see the metrics on that. And I would say I got four pledges because of Board Game Geek, because the people on Board Game Geek don't play war games.
Right. Wrong audience, really.
Yeah, buy wardrobe. So we've had a lot of response from Instagram. I don't know if you've seen those ads, Kevin. They're nothing. No. They're nothing special. They're just a screenshot. But anyway, Instagram, Facebook.
So mention it.
That's funny. Stigler's on a roll tonight.
I don't know if Stigler heard what the original title of the game that Mark had for the game, but
I think he was on when we were talking about Kill Yankees.
He was here because
Yankees, yes.
he's an ACW guy. He's definitely going to be all over this.
Now, Mark, you are right though. BGG, I think, is on a downward trend now, so I definitely wouldn't waste any more money on funding or ads with them. I've seen a lot of hate going in their direction. Not wargaming related. It's just they seem to be, like, a bad way of putting this, but they're just bad mods who are just kicking a lot of people off the platform for reasons that have nothing to do with gaming. And it's
catching a lot of BGG?
Yeah.
Absolutely. They're canceling people left and right, and some good people too.
Yeah. I didn't want to go like in that field with it, but it's really going down that path right now. So I don't see BGG lasting too much longer. I don't think it's going to like vanish, but it's not going to be what it was.
Right.
Well, wargamers have CSW and things like that. So
I was going to say, how about CSW?
Yeah. We're not the
what do I think of that? Yeah, we always. I gave John an ad for. Foremost Fearful Sacrifice. I would have to check if it's up yet. That's CSW's problem. Is sometimes it takes 2 to 3 days or months for them to get an ad up, which isn't helpful. But yeah, it's a great site.
Well, I think they're still twitching over to that new community site that he just developed and still kind of getting that up and running as far as I know. I mean, it's up and running, but fleshing out the final details with it.
Okay.
Well, the good news is Tiny Battles ad is up there right now.
On the CSW site?
I can't look right now. I don't know.
What's up there, D-Day?
That monitor is off. What?
Yeah, D-Day and Beyond is on there. But Tiny Battles. So that's, it's not a Kickstarter, but it's there, I guess. There's nothing else.
Why, I gave him the ad the day we went live, literally within minutes of going live. So that's how many days ago? I guess he's just real busy with everything he's doing.
Yeah, he's got a lot going on.
He does.
By the way, to answer...
Is Compass Games' new Kickstarter ad up there yet?
No. From Palermo to Rome and the Jaws of Victory, of all things. I thought Jaws of Victory was sold out.
Yeah, I think it is. Herm wanted to answer that.
I'll answer that. You will get crunchy. As a matter of fact, we added there's a combat event table that we added in this edition of this series where if you roll doubles on the CRT, you apply the result normally, and then you flip it over and you check out your doubles, and that's where it starts getting really crunchy. Not difficult crunchy, but detail crunchy, where you'll look at the terrain, you'll look at the situation, and it'll have a little narrative result there for you that actually occurred. That's where the railroad cut comes in. So the railroad cut event is well known at Gettysburg, but it only involved one regiment. And so you don't want to throw it in there as a rule, because it was a very isolated incident, but it's a well-known incident. So what I did was, on that particular combat event table, if you happen to roll the combat event and you happen to be at a railroad cut, you could get this historical event to occur there.
That's very cool.
Yeah, so you got the whole narrative story in that second tier on the CRT. Yeah. And you don't have to use it if you don't want. If you just want to roll doubles and use the result as is, you can do that. But if you want to flip it over and find out what other... So if you're going up a steep slope, maybe the defender will be firing over your head, which happened a lot. So there would be no effect on you. Things like that. So
is that similar to the I'm trying to remember now with the Devils to Pay? In the combat results table there was something to do with doubles or
right. Originally the doubles was a die roll modifier.
That's right.
To the red. And I decided to get rid of that again because I didn't want the modifier in there. I was trying to work in more Gettysburg details without adding more rules, just more stuff to do. So adding this doubles and going to the table, that's what took it. That's what did it. All right.
Good boy, Jeff.
Thank you, Hex to Hex.
It's the crunchiest Civil War game you'll ever play. And then the next guy comes in, I don't want it too crunchy. Don't worry, it's not too crunchy for you.
But it has too many colors.
Smooth peanut butter.
Exactly. But that's good.
Eddie just did a video today, and he totally goes into that. Herm, you saw it. You saw the video, and he does a good job explaining it. And it is such a brilliant routine. I mean, I love that kind of stuff. You're a great designer.
Thank you. As are
Don't
you.
tell Nancy I said that.
You get a playwright too, by the way.
Actually, there are 3 railroad cut hex sides, I think, in the game.
Nice. So now, Nate, did you have last question? I know you've got to play reinforcement here pretty soon.
Yeah, I was just letting Mo know I have to jet. I got to go get the new baby. I just wanted to say thanks for coming on. I'm really looking forward to the game. I think it's going to be awesome. Herman, you've done a great job with it. I mean,
Thank you.
I'll just say this. To get me to want to play it, because I am not a big Civil War guy, you did an excellent job with it.
Well, thank you very much. And congrats on the baby, by the way.
Thank you. Sorry, it's just with number 4, I got to go do the reinforcement
You did
thing.
all the hard work, by the way.
Because this is the 3rd show I've done in a week, and I think I'm starting to burn her out a little bit. I try to, give her a break when I can.
Did you not tell her we're doing a show tomorrow night and Thursday night too?
Dude.
Oh, you didn't know about those? No, I'm like,
I will end up divorced at the rate you're burning me out here.
No, I'm just kidding.
But yeah, I'm sorry I got to jet off, guys. I appreciate y'all coming on.
See you, Nate.
Take it easy.
Y'all take care.
Brother.